All right, welcome back. Now, if recent statements coming from the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, are anything to go by, then it won't be business as usual in coming elections for those who indulge in all forms of electoral malpractices, particularly when it comes to issues of voter inducement. INEC is proposing stiffer punitive measures that it hopes will serve as deterrent to the crime. Currently, in the amended Electoral Act 2010, the penalty for vote buying and selling is a fine of 500,000 naira or 12 months imprisonment or both. And of course, we did see a few arrests in connection to the crime during the just concluded 2019 general elections, but the chairman of the commission wants that to change. The electoral umpire now wants any person found guilty of vote buying or selling to be subjected to a fine of 500,000 or 3 years imprisonment or both. He also wants the same penalty to apply for anyone who violates the ban on the use of smartphones at polling units. All these provisions are expected to be made in the Electoral Offences Commission bill, which of course is still at the second stage of approval at the Senate. But the big question is, would this new proposal make any difference at all? Joining me to discuss this further is Libros Oshoma, who's a lawyer and a political analyst. Libros, thank you very much for coming on the program. What INEC is proposing, the difference is that, well, the 500,000 naira fine is still there, but then instead of 12 months imprisonment, it's proposing 3 years or both. You think that's enough to deter?
Like we say consistently, our problems are not lack of laws, but the lack of the willpower to implement the existing one. How much of the existing laws
have we implemented? Because I really can't think of anyone who has been charged and convicted over the existing one.
So if you're saying make it, it's already, the fine is already 500,000 or 6 months or 12 months imprisonment, you know, but now you're saying make it 3 years imprisonment. What's the guarantee that you'll be able, you know, to even implement the new law when you have not even tested the old one? You know, so there's need for INEC to test, you know, the existing laws. Also, in testing those existing laws, also you know your challenges.
Why is it difficult for INEC to test? I mean, every election we hear of arrests being made, but you hardly hear of arraignment or conviction. You
hear that now some people are mooting the idea of even creating a special court.
Yes, exactly.
For electoral offenses. For me also, that is like, you know, that's superfluous. You already have, you know, Electoral Act criminalizing all of these actions. And yet, INEC would say, oh, the police were arrested some persons, handed them over to INEC. INEC was okay, they handed them over back to police to prosecute. But INEC has a legal department. INEC defends electoral petitions.
Now, in cases of electoral offenses here, who should prosecute?
You see, the law permits INEC to prosecute. The law empowers them already. Even when they are prosecuted, even when the Attorney General is prosecuting, it must be with the consent of INEC. That's the position of the law. And so, if INEC is saying now that they are handicapped because they don't have the mapper, I'm saying by virtue of Section 150, paragraph 2, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act, they have the power. That section has empowered them to prosecute electoral offenses. And so the same way they appoint lawyers to defend election petition and pre-election matters, you can also appoint lawyers to prosecute electoral offenders. And let us even see people go to jail 12 months, 6 months, as the case may be.
Even for 1 month.
Or even 4 months for vote buying. But when you have not even implemented the existing one and now you're saying, you know, you need it, you know, the penalties to be 3 years. What's the guarantee that you're going to even implement, even if it's 7 years? So that's where the problem is. What is even the guarantee that even if the special courts are created, that you still have the willpower?
But is there no sense for this special court? Because the argument is that, look, you need this special court to be able to speed the legal process, the trial process.
That's why I'm saying that at least test run what you have. so you will know where the impediments are. You have not even started at all. You have not even attempted. You're saying create a special court for me. And so every problem that we have, we'll create a special court for it. We'll create a special court for kidnapping. Create a special court for armed robbery. Create a special, so the courts, what we need to do, if you say the hands are not enough, there's need to empower, employ more hands so that the dispensation of justice will be timely. And so, like you create special courts for employment, the National Industrial Court now. And so some people are saying create special court for corruption cases. But even in Lagos State Judiciary, the court had been segmented by, without even having to amend the constitution, using practice direction. You create a criminal division, you create probate division, you create commercial, general civil, and all of that. And so you can, if there's need to have more hands in the, electoral offenses division, the chief judge will do that. But because there are no even matters there are no cases
brought before the court.
So you hardly hear of electoral offenses division, even where courts have been segmented through practice direction. And so this idea of creating special courts for every known offenses, for me, it's superfluous.
Could we also argue that part of the reasons maybe we're not seeing too many electoral offenses cases now go to court is that usually, the evidence is usually difficult to prove. For instance, let's take the issue of vote buying. We can argue to some extent that, it might be difficult to prove that in court.
Deji, you hear me? I said, because you have policemen at the polling unit. We all monitor elections. We all go out to vote. You have policemen at the polling unit. You see people standing by a corner, distributing money, or some persons would vote, take pictures of the ballot paper, and go show somebody by the corner. And then you report the matter to the police, and the police says, well, we don't have instructions to arrest such persons. We only have instruction to keep peace here.
Keep peace there, yeah.
And so you also have INEC officials in such places. And nothing happens. At the end of the day,
in that kind of situation,
at the end of
who
the
should
day,
effect arrest?
You have the policeman.
But then the policeman says...
That's what I think happened. There's a breakdown of synergy, with the electoral management team. Because if there's a synergy, the election umpire would have informed
so for you,
the police.
adducing evidence should not be an issue
at all. Because the electoral umpire would have informed the police pre-hand, what constitutes electoral offenses. And so the police are already aware. And so the moment they see you, doing so, they know that this is against the law. And immediately you are handpicked or you are arrested with the exhibits right there. And those that are, including the seller and the buyer. And then also if the chairman is talking about finding a way to ensure that, the beneficiary of such fraudulent acts also, the law is extended also to include them, then I would say fine.
So that they do not benefit
from such fraudulent acts. But you haven't not tested even the little provisions you have. You're saying expand it for us. What's the guarantee that you'll be able to test it even if it's expanded? So that's my problem, really. It's not a question of gathering evidence, because it's clear. How did they know that people are buying votes?
But another thing, too, we must... what you just painted now is just a part of this whole issue of vote buying. Because vote buying may not actually take place at the polling unit. It may not even take place on election day.
Yes.
How do you prove that?
Because all of this, you see, the law shapes society. And it is the implementation of the law that actually regulates, the behavioral pattern in society. Where the law is observed in breach, impunity reigns. And so, what is happening is, if a party leader, for example, decides to compromise, INEC officials, or even some of the electoral management team, members of the electoral management team, and nothing happens to him, nothing is done about it, the impression you're giving others who are not doing it is that it pays to do it. And so that's why INEC, you can't arrest everybody, but you need to use some people as an example, to serve as a deterrent to others. Okay. But when nobody is even arrested and you hear INEC prosecuted successfully 150,000 electoral offenders, and you now begin to ask yourself, where are these offenders? You know, where were they prosecuted? Was it in the moon? Or are they counting pre-election matters and election petition cases as part of the cases that they prosecuted successfully? So these are some of the challenges. And so for me, the first thing should be, is already an offense. The offenses are well spelled out, even including vote buying, even campaigning on election day, using official vehicles, you know, to campaign and the rest. They are all offenses. They are spelled out. And so if you can't use, you know, and you are an independent body, and if you cannot use certain persons to set example, you're saying, please, you know, expand the laws for me. How do you think that the same people who are there, who probably benefited from vote buying in some areas, are going to look at those areas and say, look, we extended, you know, even if they do, they will just, they know, because it becomes a paper tiger, a mere paper tiger that will just exist in papers and nothing happens to it. They will extend it, and then knowing fully well that you can't do anything with it. You know, so there's need for more action and less talk. What we do now is more of slogans. Okay. There's need for us to step up again. All
right, Liberals, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, I will be talking about the decision of the Senate to override the veto of the president. Of course, it's about some bills that the president actually declined his assent to. That's what we'll be talking about next. Stay with us.